Walk into any Amish community in Holmes County, Ohio, and you will notice something strange. And as you look closer at their daily life, you will notice something strange. You will notice something very specific about their boots. These men work in sun-drenched fields, plowing with horse teams. They labor in rustic barns, tending to their livestock and the land. They work in quiet workshops, mastering the art of traditional craftsmanship. They are on their feet from before sunrise. On their feet from before sunrise to after sunset, 6 days a week. And yet the leather on their boots looks nothing like what you would expect. No cracking along the toe box. No sole pulling away from the upper, hand-stitched precision. No gray, dried-out surface, just pure, healthy leather that signals a boot is dying. Waste and neglect. Some of these boots are 30 years old. Some are older than that, hand-stitched and built to last. Meanwhile, the average American replaces their shoes every 8 to 12 months. We spend over $80 billion a year on footwear in this country, fast fashion at its finest. We spend over $80 billion a year on footwear in this country. We buy conditioners, waterproofers, and chemical treatments. We buy mink oils, sprays, and various specialized creams for every problem, an entire product for every single problem, overwhelmed by choice. And still, our leather falls apart. The Amish have been using one compound, one. It costs about $3, and it has worked for 200 years. The question isn't just what this compound is, the real question is why you have never heard of it. Because the answer to that question says everything about how the modern product industry works, and what it quietly took from you. To understand why leather fails, you have to understand what leather actually is. Leather is not a synthetic surface, it is not plastic, it is not rubber, it is a biological material, the preserved hide of an animal. And like all biological materials, it has a structure. A complex microscopic architecture that determines everything about how it behaves. At the core of every piece of leather are millions of collagen fibers. These fibers are woven together in a three-dimensional matrix, crossing over and under each other in every direction. This is what gives leather its strength, its flexibility, its ability to conform to the shape of your foot over years of wear. But collagen fibers need something to stay functional. They need a lubricant. A substance that sits between the fibers and keeps them sliding freely against each other instead of grinding and snapping. In living skin, that lubricant is fat, natural oils produced by the body, constantly replenishing themselves, keeping the tissue supple and elastic. When an animal is slaughtered and the hide is tanned, those natural oils are stripped out. The tanning process replaces some of them, but not all, and not permanently. From the moment leather is made, it is slowly drying out. The fibers that were once lubricated begin to rub against each other. Over time, they weaken, they crack, eventually they break. Every symptom you have ever seen on failing leather, the stiffness, the cracking, all of it traces back to this one root cause. The surface checking, the sole separation, the collagen fibers have lost their lubricant. The leather is essentially consuming itself from the inside out. So the real question has never been which spray or polish to buy. The real question is this: what substance can penetrate leather deeply enough to reach the collagen fibers? The Amish knew the answer before the question was even being asked by modern chemistry. The compound is called neatsfoot oil. The name comes from an old English word. Neat meant cattle. Neatsfoot oil is rendered from the shin bones and feet of cattle, slow cooked until the oil separates and rises. This is not a new discovery. It is not a niche product. For centuries, it was the single most common leather treatment in the world. Saddlers used it. Cobblers used it. Armies issued it to soldiers to maintain their boots in the field. The US military used neatsfoot oil as standard issue through both world wars. And the Amish never stopped using it, a tradition maintained through the generations. While the rest of the country moved on to petroleum-based conditioners and silicone sprays, Amish craftsmen kept buying the same product in the same simple tin, not out of stubbornness, out of results. Because here is why neatsfoot oil works in a way that almost nothing else does. Neatsfoot oil is an animal fat. Its molecular structure is chemically similar to the natural oils. When you apply it to leather, it does not sit on the surface. It penetrates. It travels down through the grain. It travels into the fiber matrix where the damage actually begins, and it restores their ability to move. It separates them. It restores their ability to move without friction and without fracture. Modern conditioners do not do this. Most of them are water-based emulsions that coat the surface and evaporate. Some contain silicone, which creates a barrier that actually prevents deeper penetration. You are paying for a surface illusion, not a structural repair. Neatsfoot oil does not care about appearances. It goes to work on the structure itself. Now you might be wondering, why did it disappear? This is where the story gets uncomfortable. The American footwear industry does not profit from boots that last 50 years. It profits from boots that last 18 months. The entire business model depends on replacement cycles. Faster deterioration means more purchases. More purchases means more revenue. It is natural commercial incentive. When the synthetic product market expanded after World War II, manufacturers had a powerful new toolkit. Petroleum derivatives, silicone compounds, chemical emulsifiers, these could be produced cheaply. Instead of one product that solved everything, companies could now sell you 6: conditioner, waterproofer, cleaner. Retail shelf space went to the products with the highest margins. Simple compounds were crowded out, not banned, not disproven, just quietly displaced, and the knowledge faded. Walk into most shoe stores in America and ask for neat's foot oil. The staff will look at you like you asked for a blacksmith. But in Holmes County, the knowledge never left, because the Amish do not receive marketing. They buy what works. And what works has been the same thing for 200 years. The question is, are you ready to stop buying illusions and start keeping what you own? Let us talk about the actual treatment, because understanding the theory is one thing. Knowing exactly how to do this is another. The first thing you need to understand is that preparation is everything. Neat's foot oil cannot penetrate through dirt, old product buildup, or surface contamination. If you skip the cleaning step, you are wasting the oil and wasting your time. Start with a clean, damp cloth and wipe down the leather completely. Remove loose dirt. If there is heavy buildup from old products, waxy polish, silicone residue, use a small amount of saddle soap first. Saddle soap is another traditional product the Amish use. It cleans without stripping the leather aggressively. Work it into a light lather, wipe it off, and let the leather dry completely. Do not rush this. Wet leather does not absorb oil correctly. Once the leather is clean and dry, take your neat's foot oil, pure neat's foot oil, not neat's foot oil compound, which is a different product that contains petroleum distillates, and apply it with your hands or a soft cloth. Use your hands if you can. Body heat opens the pores of the leather. It improves absorption. Work the oil in with circular motions, covering every surface. Pay extra attention to the areas that typically fail first: the toe box crease, the heel counter, the welt where the upper meets the sole. These are the zones where bending stress is highest and where dryness causes the most structural damage. Apply a thin coat. Let it absorb for 15 minutes. Then apply a second thin coat. The temptation is to pour it on heavily, but leather absorbs oil in stages. A thin coat that fully penetrates does more than a thick coat that sits on the surface. After the second coat, set the leather aside somewhere with good air circulation. Room temperature is fine. Do not use heat to speed the process. Heat can cause the leather to stiffen and can damage stitching. Leave it for at least 12 hours. 24 is better. When you come back, wipe off any excess oil with a clean cloth. What remains should be a leather surface that has visibly changed, supple, dark, alive in a way it was not before. For severely cracked or neglected leather, you may need to repeat this process 2 or 3 times over consecutive days. With every treatment, the fibers rehydrate and the cracks begin to close. Old boots that seem beyond saving will begin to tell a different story. There is one more dimension to this that deserves attention. The Amish do not treat leather once and consider the job done. Treatment is part of a maintenance rhythm. Roughly twice a year is once before the cold, wet months. Once as spring arrives, boots get cleaned and oiled. That is it. 2 treatments a year. The result is leather that never gets the chance to dry out. Never dry out severely enough to crack or fail. This is the discipline that makes the difference. It is not a miracle product. It is consistent, simple maintenance performed with a material that actually works, and the combination of those 2 things is what produces boots that outlive their owners. A good boot should last longer than a car. Compare that to the modern approach. Neglect the leather until it is visibly damaged. Buy a product that masks the damage cosmetically. Repeat until the boot falls apart, then replace it. The product industry has effectively trained us to treat leather as disposable. The Amish have maintained the older and more rational understanding. Leather, properly cared for, is one of the most durable materials available to human beings. There is something worth sitting with here that goes beyond boots. The Amish relationship to material goods is fundamentally different from the one the modern market encourages. They do not buy things to replace them. They buy things to keep them. How to extend their life across decades is treated as worth knowing and worth passing down. We live in a world optimized for transaction, not for longevity. We have, as a broader culture, largely lost that relationship, and the cost of that is measured not just in dollars, but in waste, in dependency, and in the quiet disappearance of knowledge that used to be common. And in the quiet disappearance of knowledge that used to be common. The boots in your closet right now, the ones that are beginning to crack or stiffen, can likely be brought back, not to cosmetically acceptable, back to genuinely functional, supple, lasting leather. The knowledge was always there. It was simply not profitable to keep selling it to you. The knowledge was always there. It was simply not profitable to keep selling it to you. The Amish kept it anyway, and their boots show exactly what that decision is worth. And what works has been the same thing for 200 years. The question is, are you ready to stop buying illusions and start keeping what you own?